Hi there, my name is Dari and I'm here to talk to you today about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. So this is a very prevalent disorder that you can see in society today. It's probably as prevalent as ADHD and autism, and I'm sure many of you have spoken or interacted with someone that is on the spectrum. Anyway, let's get started. So, just for a brief explanation, fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which I'll be referring to as Fasd in this presentation, refers to a range of long-term cognitive, physical, emotional, and development impairments caused by the consumption of alcohol during pregnancy. So what we'll be looking at today is we'll be going through the condition and cause, types of Fasd, how it's diagnosed, the prevalence and treatment available, implications that this may cause for you as a teacher in the classroom in general, and just how it may be issues for learning for the student, and strategies to help support them and help them to succeed in the classroom. Don't mind my dog in the background, she's going to find a good spot on the couch. So let's continue. Fasd is caused by prenatal exposure to alcohol at any time during pregnancy. This can cause a spectrum of abnormalities to the fetus depending on the amount consumed. It's a highly preventable disorder and there is no safe amount of alcohol to consume while pregnant. So most of the women that do consume alcohol while they're pregnant, most of them don't know that it's harmful for their child, and so that happens. The issues that may arise include problems with behavior, sight, hearing, poor motor skills, low intelligence and cognitive skills, and some physical dysmorphia. There are various conditions under the blanket term of Fasd. So here are the types that I'll briefly go over. So the worst one, or the most severe one you have, is fetal alcohol syndrome. And now, just for context, I've been working as a teacher aide at a special school here where I live in Toowoomba. It's a high school, and you have like two areas of students. You have like interaction, so these are your non-verbal kids that they won't talk, and they are high needs, like you have to help feed them and take them to the toilet, and there's like a high ratio of teachers and teacher aides to students, so you'll get like 5 kids in the classroom and two teacher aides and 1 teacher, and they're just really hands-on and they need like to be looked after. In fact, all of the classes have like 5 students and maybe like a ratio of like 2 to 5 when it comes to adults and teachers. So like I said, it's a special needs school, so you have interactions, and then you have your juniors and secondary. So these are students that are they can talk and they're okay and they don't need one-on-one care, but they do need a lot of support, and they'll have behavioral issues, very low intelligence. So it's a high school, but all of the learning that is done is really, really low level. So like just primary school levels. A lot of the teachers there are trained in primary special education, even though it's a high school. And the way that the school supports these students is they'll teach them numeracy and literacy and life skills, and they'll sort out like work experience for them, and you'll go with them to do that work experience as well. And I'll probably share a bit about my experience with interacting with individuals at school that obviously are on the spectrum for fetal alcohol syndrome. Anyway, that was a tangent. So fetal alcohol syndrome, the most severe form of Fasd. So these individuals are diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome and will have noticeably abnormal facial features. The learning and intellectual difficulties, they will have learning and intellectual disabilities and a range of behavioral issues. So this will look like not being able to process things. They won't be able to not regulate their emotions. So like if they do something wrong, if they get in trouble, they may lash out. And it'll be very hard to bring them back as well when it comes to learning. Most of these kids are also in like care, like home, either foster care and they're with other families that take them in, or they're in group care. So a lot of them will come to school in a big band with like their carers, and you're not sure what happens all the time. Sometimes like there's actually like a large turnover of carers too, so you'll meet the carers and then they'll have new carers, and because it's obviously like a hard job to work in as well when you're dealing with these kids. And just coming from someone who has done a lot of pracs in private schools where I've been able to focus on my teaching, working in special education needs has taught me a lot of patience. You really have to pick your battles as well. You can't pull the kids up on every little single thing, and it's very hard to interact with them because of their disabilities. So the next one we have is partial fetal alcohol syndrome, PFAS. So it's similar to FAS, but these individuals are partially diagnosed with Fasd, and they have a history of prenatal alcohol but don't meet all the criteria on Fasd. And you'll see a little bit more about that when I talk about how it's diagnosed. Next one is alcohol-related neurodevelopment disorder, ARND. So they've been confirmed with prenatal alcohol exposure as well, and they have trouble with self-regulation, impaired cognitive function, and it's really all individuals will be diagnosed with different types, but on the spectrum it can range from like severe and worse to being able to manage or not. So that's really how it works. The next one is neurobehavioral disorder associated with prenatal alcohol exposure, also known as NDPAE. So there are those who have been also confirmed with prenatal alcohol exposure, as well as other ailments in self-regulation, adaptive functioning, neurocognition, as well as learning deficits that hinder their work, academic, and social life. And the last one is alcohol-related birth defects. So obviously with fetal alcohol syndrome, and like how it's a spectrum and there's a range of things, it can be like a hidden disease, and some people you wouldn't be able to tell. Let's just say you wouldn't be able to tell that they have it or not as well, but some you can. So these birth defects are ARBD are individuals that have problems with how their organs function because of alcohol. So as a result, they may have problems with their hearing and their sight, their heart, kidney, and bones. And it's really, it's pretty sad as it's a very preventable disease or preventable syndrome. Let's go to diagnosis. So medical practitioners can diagnose individuals who have Fasd by looking at a certain criterion. There's a lot more on this website here, Fasd Hub, like if you want to do a lot of reading. But the main domains that they look at are, one, if they have confirmed evidence of prenatal alcohol exposure, if they have a range of neurodevelopmental impairments, which I have listed as we've gone along, and the physical facial features. So this includes small eyelid openings, a short upturned nose, the long upper lip with like a thin red border, in like a reduced sized head, and maybe like even like an awkward body shape. So they could also be like a bit short as well, and delayed in their growth because of, alcohol. So let's move on to the prevalence and treatment. So according to Australian Medical Association, Fasd is not a condition that affects one community, but it is a disorder that is mainstream and crosses socio-economic, racial, and educational barriers. There's actually not a lot of information or data gathered about how many suffer with this condition, like in Australia in general, but in the US alone it's estimated of about 2 to 5%, and in Australian Indigenous communities it may be up to 12%, which is really interesting. Like at the school I work at, it is true, most of the students that you can tell have alcohol related birth defects or Fasd are Indigenous, but I do know that there are some, Caucasian kids as well, and they're all really nice and friendly to interact with, but they have trouble socializing and learning, and they can get discouraged easily, and if they do the wrong thing and they're caught out for it, they obviously get upset because they can't process what's happening and react to it. So it's just meltdown city literally every day at that school. And I've mentioned before that most are in home group or care and foster families, and it's a lifelong syndrome. There's no cure for Fasd, but with early diagnosis and intervention, proper care and support can be provided. You can go through the NDIS scheme. It is a recognized disability. And there's medical practitioners such as doctors, psychiatrists, and speech therapists, as well as social workers that can help manage it and give you lots of information. So I guess the psychiatrist would look at the emotional side. Speech therapists would look at the child's language development, and they'd all set up a plan to improve as well, and you got to be on top of it. It's not necessarily the teacher's job all the time, but like whoever the carer is, whoever the parent is, it can be really hard because most of these kids are, they're kind of born like at the bottom of the ladder, and they're fighting a losing battle, and if they don't have like dedicated people to look after them, things can go wrong. And there's a lot of studies that have found that these individuals will often like have trouble at school and be expelled, and most of the kids that are at my school, they've been expelled from all the previous schools, so they come to this special school because no one else will take them, but they have a legal right to education even though they obviously don't want it. But what can you do? But the teachers there are amazing in doing what they can, and it would be hard to be a teacher there, I can already tell, just from working there. Then you get like your occupational therapists that they'll help them engage in everyday life, look at their motor skills and movement. So those are the treatment and management plans available. Social workers are there to provide, support for the family need and resources, and just get them connected with help. And just making sure that the child is safe also. Yeah. So now let's talk about, just because we're talking about it in a school setting, let's talk about the implications it may have on learning when you're for a student that has Fasd. So you can tell already that as a result from the impairments associated with Fasd, individuals can find school very challenging and suffer academically, as their brains are wired differently due to the damage done from prenatal alcohol exposure. In the classroom, the student may process information differently and struggle with comprehension and memory, and this may take more time learning new concepts, as they are easily distracted and can be disruptive. In addition to intellectual shortfall, They may struggle mentally regarding regulating their emotions and will often have behavioral issues that may affect them throughout their entire life. But if proper management skills are learned, they can succeed and be okay. But no doubt it'll be an added challenge for teachers in the classroom when you have to already provide support and strategies to meet a wide array of different learners in your class. So yeah, let's just go through what I have here. So we have their motor skills. So this can affect sport and can be discouraging for them when they are not very good at team sports and in PE. Their cognition, so you have their working memory, processing speed, verbal and non-verbal reasoning skills, and IQ. So they may be very smart and they may not be. Their language, their expressive and receptive skills, academic achievement, so they'll have issues in reading, math, and literacy. Like a lot of students will have learning difficulties, but they'll be, just because of their delay, they will struggle a lot compared to like normal children. When normal children can watch and observe and learn, they'll need lots of support. They'll have problems with attention, regulation, executive function, including impulse control and hyperactivity, which is something I see a lot at the school that I work at. Some of the kids they can't sit down and learn constantly, so we'll do a bit of learning and then we'll just go lap around the oval, some more learning, have some YouTube time as a class, and like lots of brain breaks to help. But let's talk more about this in strategies. But for now, I actually have a clip to show you that demonstrates what fetal alcohol spectrum disorder may look like in children. But with this case, this video shows young adults with Fasd in like the best environment ever, and just how they go about in life. It's only 2 minutes, and it's a clip of a bigger documentary. So enjoy.
Last week, I got in a fight with someone. He hit me first, so I hit him back.
The fact that I got as far as I have without like having a breakdown at any point, a really big one, I got really lucky.
Why are you upset? Go away!
When my birth mother drank when I was in her womb, that it affected parts of my brain and all that.
She said that my mom drank alcohol and it damaged my brain.
Usually had to be physically restrained somewhere along the line as he got older because he'd just tear up everything. We were afraid that he was going to hurt somebody as he got older, but you can't let him see the fear because that just makes him stronger and more determined that he's going to do something.
Do you get into trouble a lot?
Sometimes. They arrest me, take me to jail, 3 days.
I worry about Allison as she gets older on her own. Who's gonna be there to tell her right from wrong?
Everything was stacked against this child before she was even born. And the fact that she could scream at 3 o'clock in the morning was a good thing.
I'm sure that something like this can drive a wedge in between a couple, but we have chosen to use this to strengthen us, and it has.
Great. So, like most students with learning difficulties, students on the fetal alcohol spectrum require a lot of support in the following areas: emotional and social communication, academic, behavioral and sensory needs, and student connectedness, as well as being sensitive to all the needs of Fasd. Educators need to be properly trained and not just simply made aware. So there's a bunch of resources. There's actually a good website in my references. So nofasd.org is a good website where you can find training and additional information, as well as the fact sheet that I have for you as well today. There are many resources available, and teachers can help students by not only actively caring but remaining in communication with parents and carers. A way that my school does this is you have a log of what happens and what triggers students, and you write it down, any incidents, and you just in constant communication with caregivers. So some of the strategies include help with transition and change, clear and simple instructions for tasks, like don't use a lot of words, don't make things complicated, keep it simple, breaking tasks up into small steps, positive behavior and reward system, some one-on-one time for help, design group activities, so definitely be inclusive, encourage them to make friends and interact and be social, especially when you design your group activities, because not only that, it frees you up as a teacher, because students that do know what's going on can also help students that are struggling. Use of technology to self-monitor and manage time, as they struggle with getting things done on time, and just use repetition, consistency, routine, and supervision. So stability is very important as well. Quiet space away from students might be needed if things go south, just to have some time and readjust. Meaningful relationships with friends, family, staff, and caregivers, and definitely a positive and safe environment. So I say this because studies have shown that the most beneficial aspect when it comes to assisting those with Fasd is the support they're given from the community and caregivers. And really their biggest hurdle is staying connected and developing that trust. And if they're constantly having, different foster families, different friends, different carers, and they're meeting all these people for help, as a teacher, you can be the one stable thing in their life that they see every day, like 8 hours a day for the whole week. You can be that teacher that just reinforces that safe, positive environment. Because findings did show that the more support, care, and value they were shown and given, that it directly correlated to the success of the individual. There is so much evidence that a positive home and school environment can do for a child, and I definitely see that in my school. You have some really good teachers, and then you have some teachers that will just tell me, that kid's going to be in jail when he's older, and you can kind of agree with him, but that's actually kind of sad too. Whenever I go on work experience with these students, because you're worried that they might flip out, or they don't want to do things, because you have kids that are just like, why do I have to do this? But you're trying to set them up for work. So just for an example, I went to a coffee shop every week for one term with one of these boys. He's in year 10, and I just worked with him at the coffee shop. And you have to pick your words differently. Like, some of the kids don't even like it when you flat out say, no, you can't do that. No, you're breaking the rules. You really have to be super active in your choice of words. So, for example, I'd say stuff like, let's go wash our hands, or let's not do that, or oh no, that's too much spray, or I joke around, I'd be like, whoa, hold on there, Tiger, that's a bit much, instead of saying, no, you're doing that wrong. Yeah, it's got to be creative. And yeah, the most important thing I just want to finally say is to get educated and access to help and support. And knowledge is key, because when you're aware of what your student is going through and the difficult task in life that they kind of live, it changes your mindset and it creates like an attitude of empathy, and that will definitely help you as a teacher, even though it may be hard. Anyway, that's all that I have. Thank you so much for listening. And here are my references.